We will begin with our first delegation, which is Food Cycler Canada Food Waste Challenge with Christina Zardo and Alex Heyman, Director of Municipal Solutions. So welcome to our council meeting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to share my screen here so I can share my presentation with you. Could you confirm that the presentation is up on your screens?
Yep, we see it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time this evening. I'll do my best to keep this in the 10 minutes. So my name is Christina Zardo. I'm here on behalf of Food Cycle Science's Municipal Solutions team. I'd like to do a presentation of about 10 minutes with a couple minutes at the end for questions. So Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company. We're 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions using our technology called the Food Cycler. This is an in-home food recycler. It's sold direct to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, and to municipalities through Food Cycler Municipal. Our municipal solutions help mainly small, rural, northern, and remote communities keep food waste out of landfills. We're currently working with 8 municipalities across Canada, from Nelson in BC up to Hay River in the Northwest Territories, and several communities in Ontario, including Killarney, Algonquin Highlands, and a handful of others. Now, the problem with food waste is that it's avoidable. It accounts for a large portion of our household waste, often a majority, and it's made up of mostly liquid, which is heavy. On top of that, food waste in landfills is responsible for generating harmful greenhouse gases. All of these factors make it so that food waste is a problem that has a strong municipal impact. One of the impacts is that since food waste makes up such a large portion of our waste, it causes our landfills to fill up quickly. And there are high costs to post-closure monitoring of landfills. We want to extend the lifespan for as long as possible. The environmental impact, of course, is that food waste in landfills produces methane gas, which is many times more harmful than CO2. And in our communities, putting food waste in the garbage causes odors, which is unpleasant for humans, of course, but very interesting for animals like raccoons, who love to rummage through the bags that we leave at the curb. Removing food waste from the garbage eliminates these issues. We also may not need as much collection. We can save the municipality on hauling and disposal fees, and save your residents costs on bag tags. Now, we often get asked, haven't we solved this already? There's green bin collection. This is common in big cities with high population and the right infrastructure, but it's not a solution that's feasible for everyone. We also have backyard composting, and many people in your community might have this option, but it's also not for everyone. And it's also not a year-round solution for most people. Also, the reality is adoption rates are low and stagnant. And then finally, the easiest solution is to continue putting your food waste in the landfill, but the long-term impacts are costly and harmful to the environment. So at Food Cycler, we've proposed a different way to deal with our food waste that focuses on making it easy to deal with a great user experience. Essentially, we've built a small kitchen appliance about the size of a bread machine. You put in your food scraps, and that includes meat, poultry, fish, even some bones. And in a matter of hours, you have a nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. You've also reduced weight and volume by 90%. The machine will process about 1 kilogram of waste per cycle. It takes about 4 to 8 hours and uses less than 1 kilowatt hour per cycle, so a couple cents. The result is about 100 grams of dry, sterile, odorless soil amendment. You can then add this into your plants, your garden, your lawn, etc. You can use the machine anywhere with a plug, and most people have it in their kitchen, their basement, or perhaps a heated garage. From an environmental standpoint, the Food Cycler is comparable to backyard and central composting without taking into account transportation emissions, of course. It represents an approximate reduction of greenhouse gas impact by approximately 95% versus sending food waste to landfill. In terms of economic impact, we can significantly reduce the cost of waste hauling when compared to traditional solutions. You're looking at a savings of upwards of $100 per ton versus methods that involve hauling and processing or disposal. Now, one thing that we've learned from working with municipalities is that the residents are very interested in being part of the solution. They want to try new things, they want options, and they want their government to bring these things to their community. With the food cycler, you can bring something innovative and tangible to your residents. They don't need to live in a big city to be able to divert their organics. We believe that food waste diversion should be available to all Canadians, no matter where you live. On top of this social pressure is the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario. There are a number of diversion targets that I'm sure you know are coming into effect in the next couple of years. And diversion isn't easy these days. Most of you are likely aware of the recent issues with blue box recycling. When China shut their doors to our recyclables, many types of plastic couldn't be recycled anymore. You're essentially at the mercy of the market, and now we have more materials going into the garbage than before. We have to change habits and behaviors. We have higher disposal costs. With the food cycler, we're reducing waste at the source. We're also focusing on that low-hanging fruit, as I like to call it. Since food waste makes up such a large portion of our household waste, it's the single most impactful strategy to achieving these diversion targets. I mentioned earlier that we're working with several municipalities across Canada. As an example, in the city of Nelson, BC, we ran 2 pilots with 250 households receiving a food cycler unit. The results were overwhelmingly positive. We received an average rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars and achieved a significant diversion of food waste. Following the success of those pilots, Nelson voted to put a food cycler in every home in their city of 10,000 people. One of the key points was that the greenhouse gas impact and the cost would be significantly lower using food cycler than traditional curbside collection. So a few months ago, Food Cycler was selected as a semi-finalist for Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. This is a 3-part initiative from the Government of Canada to reduce our country's food waste. As a semi-finalist, we were awarded a prize of $100,000 and tasked with finding municipalities as implementation partners. We're using this funding to invest directly into pilot projects at a heavily subsidized price. We're doing 2 rounds of pilots, the first being in August with 4, and it's already fully subscribed. We're doing a second round in Q4 of this year, and we're looking for more partners. So these pilots will help us move into the next stages of the challenge, which come with a $400,000 prize in stage 2 and a $1.5 million grand prize in stage 3. Any future funding we receive will continue to be used to invest in programs for Canadians, and any municipality that partners with us from stage 1 will have first right of refusal on subsequent funding. So the pilot program is a 12-week project. Residents purchase a food cycler at a subsidized rate from their municipality. They use the unit, they track the number of cycles per week, and at the end, they get to keep the food cycler, and we ask them to complete a brief survey so that we can evaluate the success of the program. The results can also be used for the municipality to make future waste management decisions. So round 2 of the funded pilot programs are available, and here we have pilot size recommendations. For a municipality of your size, we would recommend either the 100 or 250 unit pilot program. They work on a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science provides a discount. We add in the federal investment from Impact Canada. We then ask that the municipality provides a subsidy of 100 per unit plus shipping, and the resident ends up paying $150 for a machine that retails for $500. And remember, after the 12-week pilot, they get to keep the food cycler. Again, I'd like to highlight that these are merely recommendations based on our experience. we can, of course, explore programs tailored to you, your needs, and your budget. But to give you a little bit of insight, in South Glengarry, Ontario, which has a population of about 13,000 people, they opted for a 100-unit pilot and just opened up registration last week. And within a couple of days, they had more than 200 people. So we would welcome the municipality of Brockton as a partner in this food waste challenge. We thank you so much for allowing us to present this to you today, and I'm prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zardo. Some interesting possibilities there. Questions from council? Anybody have any questions? Okay, Deputy Mayor Gierzak.
Thank you, Mayor Peabody, and thank you, Christina, for that presentation. And I guess through you, Mayor Peabody, to staff, if we were to fund this, is there any particular funding that we might have in place, might have in reserves to contribute to this? Perhaps Trish or Sonia? Or Greg?
I'm not aware, without looking, I don't know, Greg, if you looked into this program further and anything that you're aware of?
There's certainly nothing, through you, Mayor Peabody, there certainly isn't anything within our current budget to cover this, the costs here. But and there's certainly, I'm not aware of any funding, external funding now that would as well, but something we could certainly look into if you wanted to bring back to council at a later date.
It would certainly be interesting to know whether or not there is that support in our community to be a part of a, call it a test pilot program, whether it's 36 households or 100 households, or what that level might be. Anything we can do to encourage diversion is a positive thing. So.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, so Ms. Zardo, how many other municipalities are you trying to enlist in this? Is there like a cap on the number?
What we're trying to do is utilize the rest of the $100,000 funding we received in stage 1. And we're looking for about 4 other municipalities to run pilots for this year.
Yeah, and what do you think our municipality would fit into the 10,000, or would you just focus on Walkerton, which would be, in terms of households, Walkerton would be under 25 households. What threshold would we fit into?
So I believe Brockton has approximately 10,000 people. Yeah. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we would recommend somewhere between the 100 to 250 person pilot, just based on the interest that we've been able to garner in municipalities of your size. But we can, of course, tailor that if there's less or more, of course.
And so what's the projected life cycle of these machines?
That's a great question. So the life cycle or lifespan of the machine is somewhere between 5 and 8 years. Mm-hmm. We started making them about 7 years ago, and many of them are still going strong with daily use. So it's quite robust.
Okay. Well, I would be certainly interested in bringing forth a motion to council to investigate this. And I think it's a great idea. I did really pioneer in 2009 the green cones, and we had great uptake with those. Of course, they have different limitations in terms of winter use, for example. But we had a lot of citizen interest in those. So I think this is something that we should look at. I've always been quite concerned about the green bins, especially in a rural area where your transportation costs of picking up each green bin would be very significant. And the carbon footprint, of course, of running trucks. We have 500K of roads. So to do that every 2 weeks would sort of offset some of your environmental good that you're generating from this. So I think I'd be certainly interested in learning more about this myself. Councillor Elphick.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Christina. Thank you for your presentation. Very informative. We do have a number of households, though, where there may not be an appropriate place to dispose of even the dehydrated waste. So can you just speak to, in your experience, where that is going, even after it runs through the cycler?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So there are many options that you can use the byproduct for. Most will use it in your plants, your garden, or on your lawn. However, if you're not lucky enough to have any of those things, for example, you live in multi-residential, you could give it to friends and family, which is what I've done for the last 2 months and haven't even had to use any of my own. You could also put it into an existing composter. If you use backyard composting, it will accelerate the process. And worst case scenario, which we don't like to advertise, but worst case, if it does end up in the waste, you've reduced it by 90%, both in weight and volume, costing the municipality less. And you've also recycled it into a sterile state. So the greenhouse gas impact has been essentially nullified.
Okay, all right. So some great interest from council. So Ms. Zardo, I'd like to maybe talk to you more about this, and I'll get a notice motion from council for next meeting. And so if maybe I'll email you and we can correspond after the meeting.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next delegation, Walkerton District Hospital Foundation Mammography Machine Campaign. We have Ms. Wilhelm, our the executive director, Andy Nails, director, and Ms. Swanton, the chair of the foundation. So welcome to our meeting.
Hi, thanks for having us. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. And could everyone see my screen right now? Yep. Okay. Janice, I'll hand it over to you to take over.
Okay. Thank you so much for agreeing to have us make this presentation this evening. Okay, if you could flip it to the next, Haley, please. Okay. Now, a lot of you probably are aware about what a foundation is, but the Walkerton Hospital Foundation is part of the South Bruce Gray Health Center, along with hospitals in Durham, Chesley, and Kincardine. Each hospital has its own foundation, which is responsible for raising funds to support their hospital's equipment needs. Please note that the Ministry of Health does not directly fund hospitals for their equipment needs. The funding provided is only for the cost of hospital operations. Hence the importance of community involvement in the funding of equipment like the mammography machine. Okay. Next slide, please, Haley. Okay, this year, the Walkerton Foundation's primary goal is to raise money to fund the purchase of a new mammography machine to replace the one which has currently reached its end of life. Estimated cost of the new machine is $463,000. As well, modifications must be made to the space in the hospital to accommodate the new equipment at an estimated cost of $22,000. This gives us a total cost of $485,000 for the project. Because this exceeds the foundation's usual commitment of $200,000 to $250,000 per year, and because there are smaller equipment needs that we are also funding, we have set up a separate committee, of which I am the chair with Sharon Kramer-Dales. We've set up a separate committee to organize extra fundraisers and to appeal to municipalities, service clubs, and the community at large for the funds needed to meet this commitment. And as it says on the screen, the campaign is a one-year fundraising commitment, and our year end comes in March. So that's sort of the time period that we're talking about. So by March 2022, correct, Haley?
Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the Walkerton site, as it says on the screen, is the one of 3 Ontario breast screening program locations in the South Bruce Grey catchment area, along with Kincardine and Hanover. And while we're not the only location within the South Bruce Grey catchment area, our breast screening program caters to a larger number of surrounding communities than the others. And these include Mildmay, Paisley, Formosa, Cargill, Chepstow, and part of Teeswater. South Bruce Grey Health Centre only needs approval to ensure that the facility can cater to the newer technology, which is why we must renovate the location to better accommodate the current safety codes. So that's approval to continue with the OBSP, basically. Okay, next slide. Now, these are some statistics that I'm sure you've seen before. 1 in 8 Canadian women will have breast cancer in her lifetime, with an average of 75 Canadian women being diagnosed with breast cancer every day. Of those women, 1 in 33 will die from the cancer, with an average of 14 Canadian women dying from breast cancer every day. And gentlemen, you're not immune from this. It's estimated that 240 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer and 55 will die from breast cancer in a year. So early detection and therapies have improved the odds of breast cancer survival among women, which is why we must upgrade our equipment to ensure the availability of high quality mammography locally. Next screen, please. And I believe, oh no, that is me. Okay, come August the 31st, as you can see, it was implemented. The machine that's in the hospital now was put into play in 2008. So on August the 31st, our current mammography machine will reach its end of life, surpassing its 10-year lifespan. Our current machine performs around 2,000 scans every year, catering to women between the ages of 50 to 74 years of age in the South Bruce Grey region. And that's mostly through the Ontario breast screening program that a lot of you are probably aware of. We need to keep our hospital current in order to allow the hospital to better serve our patients and to retain viability with the Ministry of Health. Okay, Walkerton has always been a leader in diagnostic services, and a new unit will reinforce our hospital's proven expertise in rural diagnostic services. Haley, you're on.
Okay, so our current equipment that we have now in the mammography department will be replaced with the Sino Christina digital mammography system, which has 2 main features that will be new to our program. So the first is tomosynthesis, which essentially will give us a 3-dimensional imaging, which will not only be faster, taking only 7 seconds, it will also provide a lot more images of the breast cancer in general. So it takes about 7 seconds and can take up to 11 images from different angles. So due to the amount of images that are being taken, this feature will reduce the amount of false alarms and thus reducing anxieties in turn. Second is the contrast enhanced mammography. So this is essentially allows techs to highlight blood vessels within patients through the use of X-ray dye. So this will help highlight the area, which may be breast cancer. And this is traditionally places that will be missed on mammography machines like we have currently. These new modern technologies will help us to enhance our mammography program, and it'll also help to assist in delivering more accurate and faster results to our patients. So as for implementation, the new mammography machine will be installed within the 4th quarter of 2021. Andy, can I pass it on to you?
Yeah, the Walkerton District Hospital Foundation is requesting that the municipality of Brockton consider funding a commitment of $50,000 towards this new mammography machine. And as usual, our whole recognition program, the recognition will be given to groups with the cumulative donations over the years It's just, everybody's seen it up in the hospital right outside the foundation office. And yeah, we'd really like to thank you folks, because you guys have, well, you're committed to the community and committed to the hospital. You did a really big donation to the CT campaign, and we sure appreciate it, and we sure appreciate any comments. Thank you, folks.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to the foundation members for your hard work in funding the equipment purchases over the years. And we certainly appreciate all your efforts. Questions from council? Councillor Adams and Councillor Hutchin.
Thank you for the presentation. I certainly support it. It's interesting, some of the benefits, the 7-second 11-image mammography, that's got to be a huge improvement, I think. A lot of improvement, but I'm so glad that you're moving forward with this. Our main job as councillors, we build a lot of bridges, we do a lot of things, but it's keeping our residents safe and healthy. And if this helps, I certainly support it. The one question that I would have is, it sounds like machines going forward in 2021. And as you know, our budgets get set in early year, so early 2021. So is there some way that it could be built into a 2022 budget and still help get that equipment and help out the hospital? That's, I guess, the main question that I would have is how would we fund it? And I guess from staff perspective, is there some reserves perhaps if we can't wait until 2022 to be able to help?
Okay. Janice,
Yeah,
when
I
did you-
would say that because our year end is March, and that's usually when the money is handed over. I think that would probably work as long as we had a commitment ahead of time. It could be received in the 2022 timeframe. As long as it was something that was received before our year end, that would work. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's good to know. That works.
Correct. You're our financial guy on the board.
Yeah, I think anything you guys are willing to.
Yeah, anything you're willing to give
is awesome.
Okay, great. Kim?
Thanks, everyone. My question is, will you be approaching the other municipalities that are going to be serviced by this equipment?
Yes, we will be.
And to Ms. Saratori, what are we permitted to grant right now under our donation policy?
So through you, Mayor Peabody, I would have to come back to council with that figure just to see how much we've already spent from our donation line for 2021, and then make a recommendation on how we can accommodate the request for the upcoming budget year as well.
Yeah, this would have to go outside of the policy, but that's doable with a motion from council. Deputy Mayor Gierzak?
Thank you, Mayor Peabody, and through you to our guests, thank you very much for the presentation and all the work you do within the community. And as you know, Brockton Council has been a longtime supporter of the healthcare area through Family Health Team, the hospital, the foundation, and our Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee. So we certainly have been a strong supporter over the years, and I too would support this project. One question for you, just in terms of the technical question with respect to the mammography unit. Are there similar units across the province already installed?
So that's something that I will have to check, as I don't really know exactly, but it definitely isn't a new technology. So there's definitely probably hospitals within Toronto that have it already. As for in our province, since ours is one of the first that are being replaced, it will be a newer technology for this area.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to note that when it came to the CT scanner, the first one we got was the most advanced in the province and one of the most advanced in the country, and we've tried to I know the hospital and the foundation have tried to stay close to that sort of scenario. And it's always good to be a little bit behind the curve, make sure all the bugs are out of the system and that staff people are all trained up and that sort of thing. So thanks again for all the great work you do in the community.
Yeah, I think, Dan, just our digital imagery department has done a lot of research into this. And so I think we can be confident that it's a tested technology. But Haley will check that out for you.
Okay. Tim?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Haley, Andy, and Janice. Thank you so much for all your effort and coming forward to council this evening. My full support in the initiative that you brought forward, and I hope that we're able to structure a donation to the fund. I did have a question though. My knowledge is that as a result of COVID, there's been a considerable backlog in mammography scans, 300,000, I think, in the province, if not more. And just what role the Walker Hospital might be intending to play in that regard, if you have answers to that. And I also know that Ontario Health has stepped up to say that there'll be some additional funding to help support that in that backlog. And if, as part of that, that would include a one-time donation for this particular device. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on any of those pieces.
The only thing I could say about the ministry doesn't donate for equipment. So that wouldn't probably happen. It might be staffing, so they could, staff it longer during the day. I think that would probably what the money would go toward. Just, I don't know that for sure, but just historically they don't fund equipment. So Haley, do you have anything else?
That's what I was going to say. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think you've got a good positive response from council. So what we're going to do, Janice, is we'll ask the staff to bring us back a report on how we can fund this.
Okay.
And as Councillor Adams said, it'll probably be, the money will be delivered probably in the February.
Yeah.
No, that our budget. It's in with your budget. So
that would be fine.
We'll need a report and then a vote on that.
Okay.
So thank you very much for.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, moving along, we'll move to delegation 4.3, Philomena McDonald, Saugeen Municipal Airport Manager, flagpole request. So Ms. McDonald, welcome to the Brockton Council meeting.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having me on here tonight. So Mr. Mayor and Council, again, thank you for having me. As you know, I've been your airport manager for almost a year now, and we're getting a lot of great things done there. And so anyways, I had sent a request out to yourself and to West Grey and to Hanover, hopefully looking for some funding to put towards a flagpole and flag for each town, one for Brockton, one for West Grey, and one for Hanover. Currently, the airport is not signified by the towns that support us. We do fly the Canadian flag, but that's the only flag that we have there currently. So what we're looking for is just some support to purchase a telescopic flagpole and flag. The funding would go towards both the pole and the flag and some landscaping around the flags. Ideally, we'd like to see the project come together sometime this summer. And I'd like to see a representation from each town the day that we raise the flags. Currently, West Grey has approved it based on Brockton, if Brockton approves it, and Hanover has approved it already, of course, if Brockton goes ahead as well. So ideally, we'd like to have the Brockton flag flown in the center, ideally because it is on Brockton land, and Brockton has obviously more shares in the airport. And then I'd like to see the other flags flown on the other side of the Brockton flag. The cost would cover, again, some planting and things that we'd like to do around it, and it to be placed out in the entryway of the airport. Currently, there's an airport sign there now. It's looking a little tired and whatnot, but again, I'd like to see the flags flown right at the entryway of the airport. It's a flag symbolizes community, and I feel that you should be represented there. And I'm really hoping tonight we can have you on board and and like to get some thoughts or feedback on it. I'm actually surprised we don't have a flag there already, but anyways, that's why I'm here tonight. So to talk to you about that and hopefully get some feedback on it. So we are asking for $1,000 to go towards the project. And again, that will cover the fees for everything that we need to do to put everything in place.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McDonald. Dan, did you want to add to that?
Yes, certainly I can add to that. Thank you. And it has been great having Philomena as the airport manager over the past year. She brings not only aviation background and expertise, but also a business background and expertise, which had been lacking in the past. We really had property managers in the past. So Philomena's focus on running the airport as a business has been really a benefit to us. And I can add that with Hanover and West Grey already approving this, one of our residents in Brockton read that in the Hanover Post paper and has contributed the $1,000 to this project. So really what we're asking at this point is just for approval of the project and contribution of the Brockton flag to fly, and certainly your presence at that sort of flag ceremony that we would hope to have sometime this summer yet. So from that, I'll turn it over to any questions you might have for Philomena or myself.
Okay. All right. Any questions from council? Okay, Councillor Hutchin, then Councillor Adams.
Thank you. I support the request and I wholeheartedly thank the anonymous donor. I think it's great.
Oh, good. Councillor Adams.
Yeah, Philomena, I know the letter said it's going to be out by the roadway and Brockton will be in the center. I'm just wondering, I don't know how long flags last, but is someone kind of going to oversee the program so that, before they get in bad shape, they'll be replaced? I don't know if they'll go half staff when there's reason for that. If somebody going to kind of oversee the program, maybe you could answer that for me if you would.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for your question, Councillor Adams. So it would be myself and the staff that work at the airport, as we do with the Canadian flag. Currently, we actually take down the Canadian flag in the winter months. Being the location that we're at, we get a lot of high winds and whatnot, and it does damage the flags. I don't know if we'll do that yet with the 3 flags of the towns out front, but we obviously keep a good lookout for them, make sure they're not, showing any major wear or discolor. We are ideally hoping that's something that the town of Brockton could contribute to each year or each 2 years, however long they will last, to replace the flag. But we're willing to work with you with that, whether it's going to end up being a cost from the airport or whichever to replace them. But I totally know where you're going with that, and I totally agree. I don't like to see a flag, flying and looking like that. So showing some wear, but this between myself and the staff, yes, we'll definitely make sure we take a good look out for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we have a report on this item 7.1 on the agenda, Ms. McDonald. So we'll address that then. The accepting the request, I'm sure, or the bequest or whatever we call it, the donation. So for the flagpole. So thank you very much for your efforts, and thank you very much. Congratulations on almost your 1-year anniversary in the job, and we look forward to your further assistance with our airport.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Okay, now we are on to item 4.4 on our agenda. We have Mr. Vanderloo from BM Ross. He's going to explain to our audience the Eastridge Business Park servicing.
Mayor and councilors and staff for this opportunity for me to come here again to make a second presentation on the business park expansion in Walkerton. As you are aware, 4 months ago in March, I came before you to make a presentation at that time. A lot of work has been completed by staff and BM Ross since that time. But at the same time, there's been some fluidity to the work that we've been working on because of different development interests and some considerations for possible changes to the servicing scheme for the business park. So my understanding of our presentation tonight is mostly to provide you with information to hopefully allow you to make a decision as to what if any changes to make to the sanitary servicing scheme in particular, because of how it's thought may be better to try to accommodate your desire to open up some of the lands for residential purposes. At the same time, of course, I'll update you on our engineering efforts to date, the new phasing scheme that is being proposed, the schedule and costs. I think, is there, let me see if I've seen the, okay. I'm just trying to see if I can see the slideshow at all.
I can share my screen, Frank, if that's what you wish.
Unless you want me to do it myself, but if you want to, that's.
Nope,
that's
I can do that. I was ready for that. Is that working?
I guess just.
Is that?
I guess it'll work if you just scroll down, I guess, if you want to go through, but it's not.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, the agenda for this presentation, unfortunately, probably won't be as short as the previous presentations, but I will try to do my best. So first, I'll just remind you of what the master plan, which was completed in September 2019, what it concluded with respect to how to service the industrial, this industrial business park. And then I'll highlight what has changed since March of this year. And then we'll go through those other items shown on the agenda, in particular, just mentioning what has changed for each of those particular components, or at least what is being proposed for changes for your consideration. Next slide, please. And of course, you know where the business park is, but others who are maybe attending this meeting may not exactly know where it is. So it's at the northeast corner of the urban boundary of Walkerton. And the lots are surrounding the soccer park. There is for the expansion area. And it's my understanding there's a growth plan that's underway, and potentially that may have some implications for some of the servicing considerations for also this particular, the limits that are currently there for that business park. Next slide, please. So again, not to get into too much detail because you've seen this in March, but this was the preferred strategy for servicing the business park based on the master plan completed in 2019. So there will be a number of new roads. They were deemed Road A along the northerly part of the business park, and it would require a new entrance onto Bruce Road 19. And then there's Road B, which would be a westerly extension of East Ridge Road. And then it would further extend to the west as Road C to near where the standpipe is. And it would tie in with a proposed subdivision that's just to the east side of Karen's Crescent there. And both Road B and Road C are already road allowances. They're just not opened road allowances at the time. They do have hydro and water main already exist in those road allowances. And then there's Road D, which would cut up through the middle of the expansion area east of the soccer park and provide some additional lots on either side. With respect to servicing for drainage, all the runoff from the business park expansion would flow to the west towards a pond, and that pond would discharge to the tributary to the north of it. And with respect to sanitary servicing, most of it would be serviced by gravity sewer for Road C. The master plan envisioned that it would be connected to Cunningham Road as the outlet. And then for all the other roads, B, D, and the easterly 2/3 of Road A, they would be connected and to the south, and then go down Ontario Road to Old Durham Road. But then there's a portion of lots, the westerly portion of Road A, that can't be connected by gravity servicing, at least not very easily, to the existing park's sanitary sewage system. So they were envisioned as being serviced by individual grinder pumps, and they would pump to the new sanitary sewers. And then of course there'd be new water mains going down all the new roadways. Next slide, please. So this one is just highlighting a couple things about what's changed since March. So the first simple thing was we moved the future road allowance. So it used to be an extension of Ontario Road, but for sanitary servicing reasons and just for access into properties to the north, should it ever also desire servicing there, it's a better location for the road allowance, so it was moved to that location. Lots 22 to 25 in the orange dashed area. It's our understanding those lots have already been deemed for residential or are being considered to be deemed available for residential. And lot 25, immediately west of the soccer park, that at the initial stage was being reserved for municipal use, but now it's been moved to the north, and lots 2021 are now deemed to be reserved for future possible municipal use. So our understanding, because of that, and for other considerations for looping the roadway, that Road E now is desired to be considered as also a new roadway for this business park area. So that would eliminate the dead end for Road A and provide a looped roadway connection to the property being reserved for municipal use. Soccer parking lot is now proposed to stay where it is right now and be a new entrance would be off of Road D. Initially, it's understanding from talking to staff that it was going to be there as an interim basis and then move to lot 25 to become part of a municipal complex. But because of what's being considered now, it was decided that it would be best just to leave it where it is. And of course, the lot fabric has been tweaked a little bit. Most lots for the industrial lots are just shown as 2 acres, but of course, that's not cut in stone, because if you have development interests that want more than 2 acres, then it can be parceled up according to demand. Next slide, please. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it really hasn't changed since the last presentation in March. The scheme is still the same, directing the runoff to the pond from the whole park. This now shows where there's some drainage easements or blocks that should be reserved for directing the runoff to the pond. Just keep in mind that this pond, which is for quality and quantity control, it is a wet pond, so it will have a 2-meter permanent pool, so it will always be full of water at about 2-meter depth. And during a big storm, it can be up to 4 meters deep of water during a major storm event. Just keep that in mind. And we'll talk more about the swim pond when we get to the budget updates. Next slide. Again, there's 2 different types of roads within the park being proposed. One is on the right-hand side, there is a rural industrial, which is how the existing roadways in the business park are serviced, which just means there's no curb and gutter, there's no sidewalk, it's serviced by roadside ditches. And then for the extension of East Ridge Road, which is Road B and Road C, and also the other new addition, Road E, they would be an urban industrial roadway, so they would have a curb and gutter, storm sewer, and also sidewalk. So that's what's being proposed at this stage. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide is going to just help to refresh your memory about what was proposed in March for sanitary servicing, and the next one will show you what the alternate scheme is that's being considered, and asking your input on that. According to the March one, it's following the master plan. Again, most of it would be serviced by gravity sewer. Most of it's not too deep. Road D, sanitary sewer would end up being about 7.5 meters deep in one spot. That's after cutting down the hill to better improve the road grades and to reduce the depth of the sanitary, or else it would have been 10.5 meters deep. And again, there's a portion of the lots that would be serviced by low pressure sanitary sewer, which would rely on grinder pumps. And again, keep in mind that it was always expected that the lands west of the soccer fields, which on this particular drawing is shown as lot 24, now it's lot 25, that was always anticipated to drain for sanitary servicing to the end of Road A, but it would have to have its own pump. And we'll get into the reason for that in the next slide. In March, the assumption was that Road C would outlet through the subdivision to the west. But we'll talk about the change in that idea in the next slide. I think that's enough for that slide. Can you go to the next one, Sonia, please? Okay, so this is the current thought for an alternate system, and what's driving this is going to be also thoughts about switching, in particular, lot 25 for potential residential availability. So first of all, I'll just say that for Road C, given unknown timelines for the subdivision development to the west, it's being reverted back to what the master plan assumed, that the sewer would discharge down Cunningham Road instead. So that's a relatively simple change that's being proposed. With respect to the easterly half of Road A, it would continue to flow by gravity sewer connected to Ontario Road. So that one can get connected to Ontario Road right away and be serviced for sanitary. Then the rest of it, Road D and the west half of Road A, lot 25, the current idea to service that would be a pumping station somewhere on lot 21 with a force main that would go up Road E and connect to the Road B sanitary sewer system. So just a couple points here. For Road C, I just want you to be aware that the gravity sewer design through the master plan and the original concept we were working on in March, it's basically starts at Road B, basically at minimum depth, so about 8-9 feet. And then it progressively gets deeper as you get to Cunningham Road, where it'll end up being about 15 feet deep, is what's happening. So in front of lot 22 and lot 25, it's only about 9 or so feet deep, which means it can only service so far into those two lots. Lot 22 has always been known to get the runoff to the swim pond. It has to have some filling and grading, and that would also be required for the sanitary servicing for lot 22. Lot 25, from Road C to Road A, it drops by about 5 to 6 meters, so it drops fairly quickly away from Road C, which makes it, and that's why it was always assumed it would be needing its own pump if it was a municipal complex. Because Road C sanitary sewer would have to be much deeper to try to pick up and make up for that big drop across that lot. So that is a problem with respect to trying to service that lot by gravity sewer. And what we had done was we looked at how far lot 25 could be potentially serviced by gravity sanitary sewer. So if all of lot 25 you wanted to be serviced by gravity sanitary sewer, and it probably doesn't really matter which way you try to outlet it to the old Durham Road. So, but we looked at Cunningham Road as the outlet. You would end up having to have a sewer By the time it gets to Cunningham Road, that's about 8.5 meters deep. As well, lot 25, the northerly part of lot 25 would have to have about up to 2.5 meters of fill. So there'd be quite a lot of work. And our assumption was that they would have walkouts along that side too, which helps to reduce how much filling you'd have to make that work. If you wanted to completely service the business park with gravity sewer based on your existing outlets, that is at Cunningham Road, you would end up with a sanitary sewer that's going to be 11 to 12 meters deep. In addition, you'd have to have up to about 2 meters of fill on lot 2021, which is already planned for anyways, because we need to get rid of the cut from the swim pond. So I just wanted to outline that it would be a very, very deep sanitary sewer if you wanted to try to service lot 25 or the entire business park, that northwesterly corner, by gravity sanitary sewer. So then in talking to staff, it was decided to look at this pumping station alternative. Of course, it comes with a cost. It was felt too that for residential, if it was a municipal complex, it would only be one parcel, like one owner, one parcel, municipal complex serviced by its own pump. With residential, in discussions with staff, it was felt that you could have dozens and dozens of residential units, and it was thought that either it should be serviced by gravity sewer or else a communal sewage pumping station to which a gravity sewer would be connected to, and that's why this option is being discussed right now. So if you have the pumping station, there's a couple advantages that it can have. One is, of course, you wouldn't have any need for individual pumping of any lots. You can service the northwesterly portion of the business park so that they can all have gravity servicing flowing to the pumping station. What it also does is it helps to reduce some of the sanitary sewer depths. For example, Road D, right now our design, it gets to be 7.5 meters deep at the highest point towards Eastridge Road. But then if we have a pumping station, we can just we can split the sewer so that it's going to be partly flowing to Eastridge Road, and the northerly 2/3 of Road D would flow to the pumping station, and all that sewer would be at the minimum grade or depth, 2.5 to 3 meters instead of up to 7.5 meters. So it would have that advantage. One other potential advantage is if the servicing area ever expands for this part of Brockton, say to the north, you can set the wet well for the pumping station to a reasonable depth to be able to service more of that land by gravity sewer. So that's another potential advantage of going with a pumping station alternative. So again, we'll get into more discussion about this when we get to the costs and schedule. Next slide. Water main, just simply, I just want to highlight through the work since March and discussions with staff, it was decided that it was desirable to include an 8-inch water main loop up Road E, 8-inch water main loop up Bruce Road 19 to get rid of the dead ends on Road A. And at the same time, by looping, you improve the performance of the water distribution system. So all the other water main, instead of being 12-inch water main, they would reduce down to 10-inch in size. So there'd be some savings in that. It would be a little bit more expensive because of the loops, but you get rid of the dead ends, and that's operationally preferable, and it provides some redundancy as well for water servicing to the different lots in case there's a water main break. Next slide, please. For utilities, again, that's being worked on for electrical. Wisterio's in discussions with Hydro One, because Road A, the north part of your business park, is actually in Hydro One's jurisdiction. So there's an attempt being made to get them to agree and get the energy board to agree to allow Westario to have jurisdiction for also Road A, so your entire business park. That way you're only dealing with one hydro provider instead of two different hydro providers. So they have had initial discussions with them a week and a half ago, and their next discussion with them is next week. And so hopefully they'll be successful with that. If not, then we have to deal with Hydro 1 for Road A and Westario for the rest of it. And of course, street lighting would be required, but the municipality normally gets their electrician to mount them on the poles. Enbridge has been communicated with in the past, and so we know they've given a ballpark price for what that cost would be to install gas servicing for the business park. And of course, some other utilities have been notified of this project and have some interest. Next slide, please. So this slide is the updated proposed phasing for servicing the business park. And just generally, I'll just note a few things before we get to the other phasing slides. So magenta would be servicing lots 8 through 14, so the east part of Road A, plus it would include the swim pond, and a number of different drainage ditches would be required at the same time. And the reason why this can proceed is because sooner than the other ones is because it can connect immediately to Ontario Road sanitary sewer for servicing. Phase 2 would open up lots 22, 23, and 24, so that's what's shown in yellow there. So that would be the extension of East Ridge Road out to the standpipe. And then phase 3 would open up to the central lots 2 through 7 and 15 through 21 and 25, so what's in blue there. We'll talk briefly about why these phases are split the way that they are. So you want to go to the next slide, please. So phase 1, as I already mentioned, the reason why it was selected for phase 1 is because it can be serviced by gravity sewer on Ontario Road. It would not be impacted by your decisions either tonight or maybe in the future as to if you want to change the servicing scheme for phase 3 in particular, which may affect phase 2. It would involve the pond, of course. It would involve we got to get rid of all the fill that's cut from the pond. So lots, there's a bunch of lots 19 to 21 where our grading design would accommodate that. And Road A it's a rural section, so it would have ditches, and we need ditching to carry the water to the swim pond. It would have, of course, sanitary sewer, some water main. We'd have to get an entrance permit from the county for access to Bruce Road 19. And of course, it would have the utilities. So it would open up 15.3 acres of available industrial lots. Next slide, please. Okay, so phase 2, it would rely on an outlet for the sanitary sewer down Cunningham Road. At this time, our design was based on the original concept that it wasn't going to be an overly deep sanitary sewer. There is the potential to make it deeper because there's a lot of fall going down Cunningham Road. So that design could be modified if it's deemed appropriate to make it a somewhat lower within reason. So again, this would include some ditching to get the runoff to the swim pond. It's an urban section roadway, so it would be curb and gutter, storm sewer, sidewalk. It would require sanitary sewer. The water main's already there, and same with the hydro line is already there. So it would open up 14.5 acres. Of course, there's one parcel that you've already tentatively sold. but that would need this completed to service that. So scheduling would be obviously important to understand for that. Next slide, please. So again, phase 3, this one is dependent on a decision whether to service it by a pumping station or to continue on with the strategy that was outlined in the master plan. It would also include the new Road E, assuming that's firm that you want Road E no matter what, and maybe we can get your comment on that later too. But that's our understanding, that you want Road E regardless of the decision to go with a pumping station or not. So these, this would be Road D, and Road A would be rural type sections, ditches. Road E would be an urban section with curb and gutter, storm sewer, sidewalk. They would need full servicing for water main and sanitary sewer, except for at this time we did not include in our costing any sanitary sewer down Road E, because it's not required to service your industrial lots or the other lots. But again, it may be needed for lot 25 potentially. Depends on how they would front any lots, if any, on Road E. So this would open up 41.1 acres. That did include the soccer park, so it's really the soccer parking lot. So that's really 39.1 acres that it would open up for development. Next slide, please. So given just our time constraints when it was decided that we were to make a presentation to you, I'm just saying that this cost estimate update is for really discussion purposes only, especially the swim pond costs. We want to be more careful in reviewing that. We didn't feel we had enough time to be totally comfortable with this update yet. There's a number of things that we wanted to look into. So just working through this, you'll see there's a huge jump in the stormwater management works cost. We'll talk about that on another slide. Other than that, the other items in phase 1, what we did as per note number 1 here is we bumped everything up 5% just because our budget estimate was completed in February of this year based on last year's prices, and our experience with tendering this year is that pricing seems to be generally up 5 to 7%, and you're fully aware, I'm sure, of supply issues too that contractors face. So we bumped everything up by 5, and so the total for phase 1 would be instead of the items related to our previous estimate of 2.1 million, it would be 2.9. For phase 2, the items went up by that 5%, but Road BC pricing went up beyond that, and it's because of what we've determined through our detailed design, because back in March we were just starting into the detailed design at that stage essentially. So now that we are pretty much done the detailed design, we have a better handle on what's required, and we'll talk about why that went up by about $200,000. So instead of 1.8 million, it's 2.1 million. And then phase 3, other than the items from the last budget going up 5%, there's a couple of new items here based on the new servicing alternative. So the first one, the pumping station force main, it's just under $1 million. You should assume for your budget. We'd have to run sanitary sewer to the pumping station location, so 140,000 for that. And then there's Road E, urban section, but no sanitary sewer. The water main's a separate item there beneath it, but that Road E would be in the order of $700,000. So phase 3 would be 2.5 million going up to 4.4 million. And again, the majority of that is to do with the new servicing scheme and Road E. So the total budget would go from the 6.4 million that was presented to you in March up to 9.4 million if you included the new servicing scheme. Next slide, please. Okay, so cost increases compared to March budget estimates. The first one I mentioned before was just increasing by 5% because of what pricing seems to be doing lately in 2021. So that's $320,000. The swim design, based on our design, took a significant hike by $735,000. We'll talk about that on another slide. Road BC was $200,000, and that's mostly to do with more extensive and larger storm sewer system that's required to service that and the adjacent lots to it. And then so that's about 1.25 million, and then the 1.8 million is related to additional work that wasn't on the radar in March. Pumping station, force main, the additional sanitary sewer to feed the sewage to the pumping station, and then road E. So the total increase is $3.1 million. Next slide, please. Okay, for the swim facility, the reasons for the much larger cost is because it ended up being deeper and requiring a larger area than what we had in March. And part of that's attributed to making sure it's deep enough to service the townhouses along Cunningham Road there on the west side of the pond. But the main reason is because the original budget was based on a lot of open channels, not as extensive storm sewers. It made some assumptions on the outlet sewer length and extent, and so most of it is just because of these. We've got 4 to 5 foot diameter concrete pipes, large structures, to bring the runoff into the pond, and as well as to bring it to the tributary stream. So there's a significant increase there because of that. If we didn't have the extent of the storm sewer as currently in our design, we would end up with we'd need a bigger swim block. We would take up more room with channels, because the pond it's about a 7 to 8 meter drop into the pond from adjacent properties. It's as per in March, I explained to you that there's like a 9 meter drop across a swim block, a huge difference in elevation, and so we'd have very steep channels, very deep channels, wide channels, if we didn't use these storm sewers instead. There's a proposed walking trail eventually through the north side of the swim pond to interconnect Cunningham Road to Road E. And so you wouldn't want a channel through there. So you'd need at least a culvert would be through there as a minimum. So those are just some of the reasons why we went with a larger and more extensive storm sewer system, and also discussions with Public Works to get their input on our design. And some just other general comments on the costs. I already mentioned that we want to express a bit of caution until we have a bit more time to rely on the budget estimates. We just because things there's a lot of components to it, and we didn't have as much time as we think we should. We would have needed to better be prepared for a budget estimate update for you. Given the decision was just made before the July long weekend and our current workload, it was hard to put enough time into it to get the quantities, because there's a lot of earth quantities too that we have to calculate, and we couldn't get that all done on time. There is street lighting costs that weren't included in that summary table. There is natural gas for servicing about 140,000. There'd be some eventually landscaping. It wouldn't be proposed right away. We would be proposed in a couple of years after the pond was built and stabilized with a catch of grass, but there'd be some plantings that the Conservation Authority would expect to go in the pond to help with keeping the water cool. And there's a walking trail as well. One thing that I did also miss here is, which we'll talk about in next steps, is for the pumping station alternative, because it's a significant change to what was evaluated in the master plan. You would have to, you should update your master plan to include the sewage pumping station, and that would be up to a $30,000 effort to do so, including some geotech work to evaluate the site of the pumping station. Next slide, please. So as a tentative schedule, phase one, what we'd want to do is get a permit application out to the Conservation Authority just for the channel outlet improvements, because your window of opportunity ends at the end of September, and we would work with Public Works to get a contractor directly hired to do that work before the end of September. We'd finalize the design and get that done within a couple weeks. There's also then the full permit application to the Conservation Authority, which is needed before a permit can go, or application can go to the Ministry of Environment, so that we could prepare by early August. And again, if we get direction to proceed with phase one as currently revised, we should be able to get the tender package together by the middle of August. Tenders would close end of September. Those outlet channel improvements I mentioned previously would be done as a separate small contract to a local contractor. And then, but the construction of the main portion of the work would be by a general contractor, and he could start in the fall, work through the winter. If the winter is, it depends on each winter how it goes, but there's many developments that there's work that can be done during the winter, at least through part of it. And the hope would be that they could be completed by June for phase one then. Next slide, please. So phase two, that's again the extension of East Ridge Road alongside lots 22, 23, 24. Because we need to design yet Cunningham Road sanitary sewer, we may need some more pre-engineering survey there, because late last year we were told it was going to go through the subdivision and not down Cunningham Road, so we didn't do this design, so we have to do that and incorporate that in the rest of our design. There may be some changes to the sanitary sewer design that you may want potentially if you want a little bit deeper. So we're suggesting we could be finished that design by the middle of August, and then in conjunction with phase one design and phase two, then we could submit to the Ministry for approvals. Probably mid-August is too generous, optimistic. It'll probably be more like late August for that. And then a tender package. So the idea here is that phase one would be one contract, and then phase two maybe a month later or so it can go out as a separate contract, and maybe the same contractor would be interested in both, and keep that in mind when they're bidding on the projects. And then that tender, phase two tender, could close sometime in October. And again, it could proceed in the fall and be finished by the middle of next year. These things do hinge on Ministry of Environment turnaround time for these applications. So probably we would need the help of the CAO and the mayor to apply some political pressure to get it approved quickly. Next slide, please. Then phase three would be the last one. Again, if assuming that you decide to proceed with a sewage pumping station, and assuming that that's going to be a municipal project, not a subdivision developer project, then you'd have to do an update to the master plan. And it would take about 5 months or so to complete. So by the end of December, assuming there's no issues raised by any of the agencies that are circulated. And then concurrent to that, you can start the design of the pumping station and force main. So that could probably be finished by early in 2022, and then submitted to the ministry. Ministry for sewage pumping stations often take 9 to 12 months to review it. So if that's the case, then you could tender by the end of 2022, maybe into early 2023. And by the time you're finished construction, possibly it could be middle of 2023, but you should assume at the end of 2023. And I think that's it for my presentation. Yeah, just maybe one word of caution for residential, going residential for some of these lots. The sewage flows that we assumed in the park for drier type industries, it wasn't for wet industries, drier type industries, is equivalent to about 30 residential units a hectare. My understanding is the minimum greenfield development density has to be 15, I think, Sonia, residential units per hectare. But some proposals that we see these days are much greater than 30, especially when you start talking about high rises like apartment buildings and whatnot. So we just have to pay attention to making sure the downstream sanitary sewer capacity, like down Ontario Road, down Old Durham Road, is adequate for if there's going to be increased sewage flows coming from this business park, because it's the land uses are proposed to be something different than industrial. So we just need to be cautious about that. So that's my presentation. Are there questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vanderloo. Questions, Councillor Hutchin.
Thank you. That was a lot to take in.
Sure.
About Road E, I think we established earlier that we didn't want a dead end road on Road A. And then to service better Lot 25, Road E is kind of necessary. So I don't think it's something that we can even consider removing to save money, correct?
Yeah, it depends. I guess if you sold Lot 25, it depends what kind of internal road system they would have, which potentially could avoid all of Road E. But at the same time, Road E is an existing road allowance. It's already been established as part of the original business park, so it's there already. So I'm not, and again, I see the advantage for sure of looping the end of Road A and having that also for even emergency services. So fire, ambulance, whatever, if something happens on one road, then they still can get access.
Thank you.
Okay, next question, please. Councillor Elphick.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, just a couple of questions actually related to the format, and I'm not going to get so much stuck in because I know things can move, but the location of the road access to the soccer fields are coming off Road D now, where I think it was originally intended to be off of Road A. We know that we've received some additional funding for some facilities on the park. Where are those intended to be situated? Because my understanding was those were more closer to Road E. So I'm just wondering, when we talk about these allowances and making sure that they're opening, is that information available for us at this point?
Through you, Mayor Peabody, the funding and to Councillor Elphick, the funding we received for the facility in the soccer park is to there's still access from the walking path to that facility, and directly from the parking lot. We could connect from the parking lot that's shown here. We could connect to that facility and potentially add another walking path within the soccer fields. I don't know if Mark wants to comment further on it. he has been involved in these discussions for sure, though.
That was my question, actually. I was just making sure that if we're going to use, is it lot 6? Because originally there was an intention to bring it off of Road A.
So originally, actually, the parking lot for the soccer complex was to be combined with the municipal complex, and it was going to be on lot 25. So upon further evaluation of moving the complex location, it seemed appropriate to leave the soccer parking lot where it is, although we lose those 2 acres of land, rather than redeveloping that whole area, because it has the berms around it, trees planted, signage up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I had one other additional question. With lot 25, if it is considered for residential use, what other sort of sound mitigation requirements might be, if the municipal complex lot is not used as municipal complex, or even if the abutting commercial lands are for an industry that creates noise, is there a need to have a larger setback or other sort of sound mitigation, like a berm around that residential lot in lot 25? Like, will that become a requirement?
I guess that'll be hard to answer at this point until we go through a planning report. We have discussed concerns with potentially, like, lot 19 is close to, depending what type of industry would go there, there might be limitations along that lot.
Thank you.
Okay, next question, Councillor Adams.
My first parts are comments with regards to I'll call it the bigger picture. Thank you, Frank, for your presentation and laying it out as well as you did for us. It's a bit confusing. Not your presentation, just trying to get through it all and understand it all properly. I'm sure all my councillor associates feel the same way. But I guess the first thing that I went back, I think originally a couple of years ago when we did the first swing by on the servicing, I think it was $4.3 million. It seemed expensive at that time. And then the report from March, it was 6.3, but I think we all felt very strongly about moving forward with it. I certainly do still, but boy, it's gone from 4.3 to 6.3 to 9.4. And all of that translates into higher selling costs for residents to buy industrial or business park land. It's an investment in the future. I said that back in March when we had it, but it's a shocking increase in cost, no question. So I'm glad you brought it forward for us to make our decisions. One of the things that it also speaks to for me, and I've been vocal in terms of not a great location for a municipal complex, certainly an arena when it's needed. But it also speaks, it's getting very expensive. The per acre land cost is going to be very expensive for us. And we're going to be consuming some of that land for our own benefit without getting any assessment. It will be institutional, so there won't be any return to the taxpayer on that land that we're using for our own benefit. And I think that's an important consideration from my perspective. There are probably other very good locations where it could be, but we're using business park land that is now getting extremely expensive in terms of the per acreage fee on it, the per acreage cost. And in my feeling, I'm a business guy, and I guess to me, it should be used for business purposes. That said, I think we need to proceed with phase 1 for sure at a minimum and get that going. So my last 2 comments are this. I'd be interested, Frank, if you could just mention on the operational costs, it's about 1.1 million for the sewage pump, because I think there was 900 and change, but there's also some sewage rework that has to be done for that. So it's about 1.1 million for that. I'm just wondering, is the operational cost for that expensive? Can you speak to that? And the second piece would be, I'd be interested in the mayor's comments, because I know he's been doing some very good work in terms of discussing different options with people, especially on the residential. I'd be interested in his take moving forward. Again, I think he's done some really good work, and I'd be interested in his thoughts. So the first piece is for Frank, just on the operational cost of the sewage pump.
Yeah, maybe Greg even would be better at answering that question, but you're going to have to replace the sewage pumps every 15, 20 years maybe. And, that may be, a $30,000 expense, depends on the size of those pumps, of course. And of course, there's record keeping, monitoring that you have to do to satisfy the ministry, the terms of the environmental compliance approvals. You will have a gen set with it, but I don't think those normally those have a long lifespan. You do have to make sure you turn it on every month to make sure it's ready to operate. But maybe Greg, you have actual numbers that you're aware of as to other pumping stations that you're dealing with as to likely costs and operator efforts?
Sure. Through you, Mayor Peabody, to Councillor Adams. As far as the equipment inside, yes, they have a 15 to 20 year life cycle typically. The building envelope, obviously, and the roof would be somewhere in the same range. And as far as operational costs, so those would be capital costs. As far as operational costs, I mean, Veolia or whoever the contractor is during that time period will certainly be rolled into, those costs will be rolled into our daily operational costs. So everything's an economy of scale. We already have pumping stations around town of various descriptions, and just be additional time spent there. And to be quite honest, I don't think that the added on operational costs on a yearly basis would be significant enough to not want to go forward with this proposal.
Thanks, Greg. That's a good observation. It wasn't a case of yes or no based on the operational costs. It was more just, was it thousands? Was it 100,000? I assume it's run off of electricity and powered that way. So it was
yes,
just
sir.
A question of out of interest more than anything.
Yes, sir. It is electric with a generator backup, a diesel backup generator, and I don't have any numbers in front of me right now to give you as far as operational costs. However, I could certainly bring that back should you wish me to do so.
Don't put it on the top of your list, Greg.
Okay. All right, Steve, you'd asked a question. We've been getting a lot of interest in this park. It's very exciting for Brockton, the number of inquiries we've been getting, both for the residential side on the west side, as well as businesses. A lot of businesses are acquiring. Sonia, for example, has a meeting Thursday morning with a small scale manufacturer. And so and I've had two in the last week with other manufacturers. So a lot of interest in the park, and it's great that Frank has put all this together in a timely manner, because we do have to make decisions to accommodate those inquiries. And on the west side with the residential, we do have one, the 9.8 has been purchased, as we know. And so that leaves some other pieces over there. I wonder, to accommodate some of the inquiries and putting some land up for sale more for residential. And one of the inquiries that I did get was a builder who would, if they were a successful bidder on a residential block up there, would build a geared to rent apartment, which I'm getting a lot of demand for that. I'm getting a lot of questions, especially at county. And I know, Dan, you've been on that right from the beginning 2 years ago, that if we're to accommodate workers, we do need affordable rental accommodation, and now more than ever it's there. So if we could partner with somebody like that and use the lands that we have to leverage that, that's really win-win for the whole community. So Frank, I had a question though. If on lot 25, given the slope that you've described, and it's very evident when you're on the site, would it be practical to only use, say, 5 acres of that? The 5 acres for residential, where it doesn't have that, halfway, doesn't have that huge slope, doesn't have the huge drop, and then leave the back 5 acres for the municipal use. Is there a cutoff line there where it's, you don't have to have, I know you mentioned the 9 feet for the sewage, for the sewer. on Road C. So I'm just wondering where the cutoff line is before you have to incur that sewage pump cost for residential. I guess you'd have to calculate it.
Well, we looked at two, Mayor, we looked at two different alternatives for servicing that lot 25. One was if it was the first 130 meters was sold for residential use. And then the other was the whole thing was sold. And again, you know, we made some gross assumptions, walkout. If the northerly part of the development was walkout basements so that you gain the 8 feet there without having to fill it, right? Because it's got walkout basements. Then to service that 130, and again, we could take a closer look at it again, but our initial evaluation was that you would end up with a sewer that's about 7.5 meters deep by the time you get to Cunningham Road. So it still is deeper. It's not necessarily unheard of, but it would be. It's getting fairly deep. But keep in mind, Road D is already the way it's proposed right now. The design, it's 7.5 meters deep at one point as well. Cunningham Road is only a 20 or a 33-foot road allowance. It's got water main in it to and from the standpipe, so you have to be careful with any construction of a deeper sanitary sewer there. The disadvantage, of course, now is, I guess maybe my other question back to you would be, if you sell, so did you say if you sold the front for residential, you would leave the rest for industrial then?
Or industrial or municipal.
Okay, it just means the rest would be serviced then by a pump then.
Right.
By individual pumps then is what you're thinking.
I'm just looking at alternatives, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that would be 130 meters. Could you put those, but you'd still have to, even if you did the pumps, or if you did pumps, would you still have to go down the 7 meters? If you had grinder pumps on each of those houses in the
Oh, no, like in grinder pumps, they pump it to whatever essentially elevation you need. So you would just have your normal depth sanitary sewers and you pump to those sewers.
Could leave it at the 8 feet versus the 21 feet that you described, which would you be getting into bedrock at the 21 feet?
Oh no, there's no bedrock in this park near the surface at all.
Okay.
Because geotech work was done. There's no bedrock close to the surface at all. Not within 10 meters.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. Okay. I think well, that's just my thoughts. We should maybe on lot 25 try to do a hybrid to avoid some of those other problems maybe. But anyway, other questions? Okay, we do have a report on this in 7.1 as well as some items in camera on this later in the meeting. So there is more time for deliberation on this. And I will acknowledge to the council and the guests, I did let Mr. Vanderleer go way over time on our procedural bylaw, but we did invite him. It's a little bit different than other delegations. So. Okay, well, thank you very much for all your work, Mr. Vanderleer, and it's an exciting time to be on Brockton Council to be dealing with these potential plans and growth of the municipality. So we'll deliberate further in the meeting. Okay. There's nothing else. We'll move on to the report section. A little bit of housekeeping here. Get into section 7. So first of all, we'll do the minutes. Moved by Councillor Alphick, moved by Councillor Lifeso, that we adopt the minutes of the June 22nd council meeting and June 24th council special meeting as presented. All those in favor? Okay, it's carried. We have any business brought forward from the minutes? And, we have one item, but any comments from the minutes? No. Okay, then we have the Municipal of Leamington resolution, 3-digit suicide and crisis hotline. Moved by Councillor Lifeso and seconded by Councillor Alphick, whereas the federal government passed a motion to adopt 988, a national 3-digit suicide and crisis hotline, and whereas the ongoing COVID pandemic has increased the demand for suicide prevention services by 200%, and whereas existing suicide prevention hotlines require the user to remember a 10-digit number and go through directories or be placed on hold, And whereas in 2022, the United States will have in place a national 988 crisis hotline, and whereas the municipality of Brockton supports the municipality of Leamington and recognizing that is a significant, important initiative to ensure critical barriers are removed to those in crisis and seeking help. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the municipality of Brockton endorses this 988 crisis line initiative, and further that staff be directed to send a letter indicating such support to the local MP, MPP, and Federal Minister of Health, to CRTC, the municipality of Leamington, and local area municipalities to indicate our support. Any questions about that? All those in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Now we're on to the report section. Saugeen Municipal Flagpole request. Municipal Airport, moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that the Council Municipality of Brockton receives report 24 Saugeen Municipal Airport Flagpole request prepared by Fiona Hamilton Clerk, and in doing so approves flying a Municipality of Brockton flag at the Saugeen Municipal Airport. Okay, we've had a presentation and comments from the Deputy Mayor. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that's carried. On to the East Ridge Business Park plans, moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that the Council Municipality of Brockton hereby receives report number CAO 2021-14 East Ridge Business Park plans, July 2021, prepared by Sonia Watson, CEO, and in doing so approves proceeding to issue a tender for Phase 1, construction of Road A, Phase 2A, and a portion of 2B, and the stormwater management pond, and to issue a second tender for Phase 2, construction of Road B and C, as Phase 2, once design and construction drawings are complete, and further approves the phases proceeding for an estimated probable cost of $5,013,000 and $13,856 pending tender results. Okay. All right, discussion. Okay. We've had some, so that's phase 1 and 2. Okay, Councillor Elphick, just have to turn the lights on here. Go ahead.
Thank you. And point of clarification actually is just on the first part of the motion for Phase 1, so the construction of Road A, which I understand. But can I just get some clarification on the separation between Phase A and the portion of Phase B? And when the reference to stormwater management pond, is that the one on the west side, or is that the parcel that I understand Frank saying would be abutting to County Road 19? You mentioned about some drainage happening along County Road 19. So that include that as well?
Yes, through you, Mayor Peabody. I don't know how to get the diagram back up, but so this is the portion of Road A. It was broke up into sections 2A and 2B. 2A is a section right adjacent to County Road 19, and then the next portion of the section is called 2B, and it doesn't go quite as far as Road D, because we cannot service that whole portion off of the existing Ontario Road. And then the stormwater management pond is the large stormwater management pond to the northwest corner. So that would be the pink area. And then Road B and C was in yellow and is adjacent to the 9.8 acres and flowing into Barry's eventual subdivision.
And is there an intention to connect to Cunningham Road or no?
Yes, like it will end there.
So like to travel Road C onto Cunningham Road, is that connecting? Or Road C will only connect into the future Barry subdivision if that develops?
Yeah, it will connect into the future subdivision once it develops.
Okay, so there's no extension of Cunningham Road up into connect to Road C?
No, and I believe that the road allowance portions on either side of Cunningham Road would make it undersized regardless, so that wouldn't really ever be proposed as a full municipal road in that area. Yeah.
Okay, well, that answers my questions for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Further questions? Yes, Councillor Hutchin.
Thank you. So are we going to put a hold on all sales of lands until we've reevaluated what the costs are going to be and how we can fairly distribute them?
Yeah, it is quite imperative that we decide how to move forward here so we can, I do have, I think 5 inquiries going right now, and that's not including residential. So for interest sake, we definitely don't want to, put them off too long, but I think we do have to totally reevaluate the cost per acre, look at comparables, also look at, what portions of the park we would be allocating the cost to, and that can be done based on frontage or the different areas on how their flows are contributing to the sewage pumping station. So there's a variety of ways to look at that. So that would be, I try to get that report to the next council meeting for council's consideration.
It's very important. And if I was the developer, I would be watching this council meeting.
Yeah. Well, the key point is the comparables. We need a thorough analysis of what our neighbors are doing.
Yeah.
On industrial land. Councillor Adams.
Just to jump in on that, Sonia, I think before we got into this, the expanded area, I think we were about 27,000 an acre, and then I think, what is our current now? Is it about 75,000 an acre?
That we're offering them for sale, 79,000.
79.
Yeah.
So again, with this increase in cost, we'll have to, as you said, we'll have to take a look at that.
For sure.
As Mayor Peabody said, you also have to be competitive. So
totally. And as we've said, a lot of the lands, if we're looking at the municipal complex or the soccer fields, some of it is municipal infrastructure. So some of the cost would be, looked at to be our expense as well.
Okay. All right. Further questions? Okay. Councillor Elphick.
Just back to Road A. So the portion of 2A and 2B, does the completion of 2A on its own take us to Ontario Road or not quite to Ontario Road?
Not quite.
Okay. And that's, I guess, I gather why it's important to go to 2B and that has the existing servicing because it would be running to towards 19 in the pink area.
Yeah, I think it's to get as much of that land serviced as we can based on the existing servicing that's there. That's basically the easiest area right now to complete.
Okay. And is there an intention? I know that there's a drawing for a future road allowance from Road D north, but nothing from Ontario Road north. Just wondering if you can speak to that, just because it seems like Ontario Road would be the primary road going through. I'm just thinking long term, if we come back here in 5-7 years and this is full, I'd be saying, well, why didn't we keep the road allowance moving north on Ontario Road? Why did we have the jog to Road D? Is there any reason why we did that?
And that was based on servicing. We actually originally had that extension at the end of Ontario Road and then determined with the servicing that was going in Road D, it was more efficient to service it through an extension in Road D. So that was looked at. And Frank did mention, I think it's to do with the sanitary.
Okay, but would that not have to be a consideration in any event for any future development to the north?
It would, but we need to allocate the land area now so we don't sell it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the servicing requirements now are in place for that future extension.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? I just had one comment I wanted to get council some direction on, or we probably need a notice separately, but just want to put it out there. In the westerly corner, there is a cemetery, and the cemetery right now is the stones are not on land that is cultivated. But there's a piece of it's 1.5 acres that we've still got sort of sterilized because we need an archaeological study. Given the prices of the land, I think council should be moving ahead with the archaeological study to get that land either certified for development or if there is reason to preserve it, then we just leave it. But given the price of land, I think we need to move ahead on that little piece there and do the proper study. But that can be done another day. I just want to point that out. Okay, so we have the motion before us. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? So the motion is carried. All right, thank you very much to the staff. It's a lot of work to put all this together, and it's, as I said, exciting times moving forward. 7.3 Community Development Coordinator update, moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elphick, that the council receives report number ED 2021-5 Community Development Coordinator update, July 2021, prepared by Flagpole Community Development Coordinator for information purposes. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Adams.
Just a comment. I think great work for those that are organizing the event coming up this weekend. I have had a few people asking me the question about being that Grey Bruce is the hot spot for the Delta variant right now. There's a bit of concern with having the event, and I guess it was just bad luck in terms of the timing. But so that is a bit of a cautionary concern. And I think Mayor Peabody, I think you brought it up as well when you're in your meetings with Grey Bruce Health. So we just need to be cautious with that. And the other one, I was wondering, I've been meaning to ask this. I don't know if Paulette's on the Zoom call yet, but I'm just wondering if when she does a very good report here, and when she does that report up, if there's been some new businesses or some development that she's had some direct influence, and I'd love to see that in the report. I know that she's involved with others in a lot of this, but if she was sort of give a little kudos when you're directly involved in getting a new business or whatever, and I'm not sure if she could add that to the report, but maybe perhaps Sonia could ask her that question. I just love to see that and be able to acknowledge that if in fact there's been some really one-on-one contact that's resulted in a business.
Through Mayor Peabody, Paulette is present. She just needs to be elevated, I think, or promoted. So she definitely has one-on-one contact. I'm not sure about, there she is. I will let her respond.
Hello, sorry about that. I've been there the whole time. I apologize for that. It's hard to say. Are you talking about where we take personal credit for helping a business come? I mean, we've certainly aided them with getting a lot of business grants and other things. I do get calls sometimes, true, right from the start. Provision Hydroponics was one that called right from the start about whether this was a good area, whether there were businesses available. So, Councillor Adams, if you do want me to highlight that in future, I'd be happy to do that.
Sure. Don't be afraid to blow your horn.
Thank you very much. Well, certainly some of the East Ridge inquiries as well have been coming through me as well, and we've been processing them. So very pleased that Council is looking at that now and giving its full attention to.
Take the credit. If you've been doing one-on-one stuff with them and it's resulted in a business, I'd love to know about it.
Thank you. I will keep you informed.
Okay, Councillor Elphick.
A very brief comment to say to the volunteers in Cargill and the businesses that have been established in that vibrant village that it was wonderful to visit and see, and also to see a number of individuals from outside our community taking part in those activities. So I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work that's been done there, and it was nice to see that that village come alive.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay. Yes, Steve, to address your comments about the event being held, we did very carefully consider it, the Friday reopening, and the province is allowing Grey Bruce to move to stage 3, and we did contact the health unit about the event, and I was extremely concerned about it. Sonia will tell me there's no other mayor in Grey Bruce that's more concerned about the Delta variant than me. So I'm taking it very seriously, and have been pushing for questions and answers, and it's, I think the fact that we're moving to stage 3 gives us the reason to do the reopening, but at the same time, we'll monitor what's going on in Grey Bruce and for all events in Brockton and reassess things if needed. And yes, Grey Bruce still is the worst region in Ontario and second worst region in Canada with the Delta variant. Although the good news is the growth rate of the virus has been for a week now below the critical threshold of 1, and the overall cases have dropped 40% in 2 weeks. 3 weeks ago, we had a 330% spike in caseloads when First Nations had the, no, the Delta variant does spread faster and something we really need to be careful of. So it's not over till it's over. So, okay, Sonia.
And just further to Mayor Peabody, you know, we did have a detailed discussion on that, and we did consult with Dr. Era, and you know, I think the message is our businesses have been safe and practicing safe practices for quite some time, and it's the organized events that are actually safer than the private parties and things that are occurring, private gatherings. So that's also the message. So, and we will have our bylaw enforcement officer just doing a friendly patrol to make sure any gatherings are, you know, breaking up. So we are being responsible as a municipality as well.
And there was in the report, but I do encourage any councillors that can attend both the Cargill event and the downtown reopening event. You're very warmly invited to come, and the businesses are really looking forward to seeing as many as possible that can make it. So your support's appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All those in favor of the report? Okay, it's carried. Activity report, CBO. Moved by Councillor Elphick, seconded by Councillor Lifeso. Council of Brockton receives report number 16, CBO activity report, June 2021, prepared by Dieter Welts, Building and Planning Manager, for information purposes. Okay, any questions about that? Oh, no, it's quite a hefty number there at the bottom there, 25 million. So, very good. And again, thank you to the Dom Paquette and Dieter for handling all these $25 million worth of files and permits. More to come. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, it's carried. Second item for Mr. Welts, Walker West Subdivision Conditional Building and Permit Agreements, Phase 2. Moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elphick, that the Council of Municipality of Brockton hereby receives Report 18, Walker West Subdivision Conditional Building Permit Agreement Phase 2, prepared by Dieter Welts, Building Planning Manager. In doing so, authorizes staff entering into agreement for lands in a form satisfactory to the municipal solicitor within Phase 2 of the Walker West Subdivision upon receipt of a building permit application prior to the water booster pumping station being complete and operational for the purposes of a conditional building permit prohibiting occupancy, with the final form of agreement coming forward at the next meeting to be ratified by council. Okay, any staff comment on this? No, hearing none. Any questions from council? No. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Fullerton Site Plan, East Ridge. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, signed by Councillor Hutchin, that the Council of Municipality of Brockton hereby approves report 17, Fullerton Site Plan Control Agreement, prepared by Dieter Welts, Building and Planning Manager. In doing so, approves a bylaw coming forward entering into a site plan control agreement with Ryan Fulton, owner of part lots 33 and 34, 1, NDR, Grant Part 1, 3R 10451, Municipality of Brockton, within East Ridge Business Park, Walkerton. Any comments on that? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, it's carried. Wastewater, water and wastewater. Moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elphick, that the Council of Municipality of Brockton receives report 11, May and June water and wastewater maintenance, prepared by Greg Fertney, Director of Operations, for information purposes. All those in favor? Oh, I forgot questions. Any questions first? No, okay. People were in favor, but we don't have any questions. That's very good. Okay, purchasing procurement update, Waparing Community Center and Central Hot Water Boiler replacement. Moved by Councillor Elphick, seconded by Councillor Lifeso, that Councillor Swy Brockton receives report number 22, purchasing and procurement update, Walkerton Community Center, Central Hot Water Boiler replacement, prepared by Trish Territory, CFO, and Mark Coleman, Director of Community Services for information purposes. Questions? Yes, Councillor Adams.
Looks like we only received 2 bids out of 6 that were sent out. So I wondered if the other 4 actually received the bids. And maybe the question, I guess, is, did we allow enough time? Canada Day was in there and it went out, it was only 2 weeks, but Canada Day was in there. So I'm wondering, in light of how I know in business it's difficult sometimes even acquiring items with COVID and getting pricing and so on. I just wondered if that might have been why we only got 2 bids, that there was not a lot of time for the vendors to put the pricing together. I guess there's a question in that.
Okay.
Did we allow enough time?
Any answers?
So through you, Mayor Peabody, it's hard for us to determine whether or not it was adequate time. We are doing our best as staff to provide as much time as we possibly can so that we don't deter anybody from placing bids on any of our quotes or tenders, and also limits our risk exposure as well. So it is definitely something that staff are working towards. I don't know if Mark received any feedback from any of the companies, whether or not they just didn't have enough time to complete a quotation or not. I can let him answer that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, good evening. One of the invitees declined. They were going on vacation. Others were aware of the project in advance of us releasing the RFQ by invite. They chose not to bid for whatever reasons. The equipment was specified well in advance. They had the opportunity to do site visits. Only one of the 6 chose to do a site visit. 2 of the vendors had already been on site and had seen the equipment. The equipment is readily available. So other than that, it's, I guess, just how hungry you are for the business and whether you have access to that equipment. So they all deal with different suppliers, different manufacturers. They don't all necessarily deal in the same equipment. And certainly the lowest bid received was, did a site visit and was quite competitive in pricing and met our budget expectations very closely.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Okay. Capital expenditure update, moved by Deputy Mayor Gears, seconded by Councillor Hutchin. Councillor Swy Brockton hereby receives report 21, capital expenditure update, prepared by Trish Territory, CFO, for information purposes. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Tax arrears, June 30th. Moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elphick. Councillor Swy Brockton hereby receives report 20, semi-annual tax arrears to June 30th, 2021, prepared by Trish Territory, CFO, and Jessica Reinhardt, tax collector, deputy treasurer, for information purposes. Okay, any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Municipal modernization program, phase 2. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gears, seconded by Councillor Hutchin. Councillor Swy Brockton hereby approves report 2021-12 Municipal Modernization Program Phase 2 Implementation Funding Update, prepared by Fiona Hilton, Clerk, Trish Territory, CFO, and Sonia Watson, CAO, and doing so authorizes the bylaw coming forward, entering into an agreement with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Okay, questions on that? No questions? All those in favor? Okay. Durham Street Park, the Market Garden, moved by Councillor Elphick, seconded by Councillor Lifeso. Councillor Brockton hereby receives report 17 Durham Street Parkland, the Market Garden, prepared by Mark Coleman, Director of Community Services, and Sonia Watson, CEO, for information purposes, and in doing so approves proceeding to the tender with the concept plan for the Market Garden, and further approves the launch of the fundraising campaign. Any questions on that? Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Sonia, for your response to the question I had. It was well done. I did have a question though, in terms of, I think the land and the program, the project's going to be about $300,000. And I know there's going to be a fundraising campaign. If we don't do the fundraising campaign and don't get the funding from the government, the grant opportunity, I'm just wondering, is there reserve money? How would we fund it if that were the case? I certainly support it. I think really it's going to look very nice down there. I think it's going to be a good asset for Brockton, for Walkerton. I'm just wondering how we're going to fund it if we have to come up with the $300,000 in total. I guess it's actually, we've already paid the $80,000 for the land, but or whatever the number is.
Through you, Mayor Peabody, I guess that would remain to be determined by council. You know, we are continually getting parkland dedication fees through our developments that could be considered. Also considerations for the 2021 budget. You know, I think the committee is committed to the fundraising campaign and as our staff. So, you know, we'll make some solid efforts there, and we're hearing good, you know, basically our committee members have been waiting for this to go out. So I do have strong, you know, I think we're going to have success with that. But to answer, you know, your question, that will have to be further examined, I guess. We will know closer once the fundraising, if we release a campaign right now, we are going to know about this grant by mid-September. So, and the tender's going out, and we can consider that at that time.
Thank you. And I guess I was just considering that we had a little challenge with soccer fundraising, and we still have, because there's still money outstanding, but the Cargill folks did a fabulous job. So there's the good and there's the challenge. So
exactly.
Hopefully end up on the side of good. Thanks, Sonia.
Okay, further questions? Yes, Councillor Alpha.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the report and the work on behalf of all the volunteers that came forward to bring this together. My question though just relates to the naming of the park. And I'm just wondering if anyone can speak to what alternatives may have existed. And the only reason I bring this up is that maybe we should be speaking with members of the Legion, is that Market Garden had a particular interest in World War II. It had some significance, and I'm wondering if that had any impact, or if there would be any potential impact in having that name established for the park. So just a consideration.
Okay, well, we didn't consider that. It was the Market Garden was to reflect on the fact that the Wongs used the property next door for the restaurant, and that the mother had an extensive garden at the back, which still exists in a bit of a ruined form. And Dan Wong was on the committee, and he didn't really want the attention drawn, being very modest. He didn't really want Wong Parquet. Is that correct, Sonia?
Yeah, that's correct. And then one of the other options was the Market Square, and they felt that was not really friendly or descriptive type thing. Another one was the W Park, which is kind of meant Wong, Water, and Walkerton. But again, was kind of a bit of a tongue twister. So I think that's didn't get, so this was the majority of the committee voted on this name.
Helpful explanation. Thank you.
All right, further questions on the park? Okay, no, it is a great design. So really anchor the downtown. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, it's carried. COVID municipal response update, moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elphick. The council receives report CLK 2021-21 COVID-19 municipal response, July 13th update prepared by Sarah Johnson, Junior Deputy Clerk for information purposes, and further confirms and ratifies all operational decisions, procedures, and cancellations put in place by staff and the MECG in response for the COVID-19 pandemic. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? It's carried. Biannual municipal website progress, moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that the Council of Flagpole hereby receives report CLK 2021-22-21 biannual municipal website progress prepared by Sarah Johnson, Junior Deputy Clerk for information purposes. Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor? It's carried. Website news module upgrade, moved by Councillor Elphick, seconded by Councillor Lifeso, that the Council of Spalding Brockman hereby receives report CLK 2021-23 website news module upgrade prepared by Sarah Johnson, Junior Deputy Clerk, and Fiona Hamilton. In doing so, provides pre-budget approval to upgrade the news manager module for the municipal website, include the $4,174 in the 2022 operating budget. Okay, any questions? All those in favor? It's carried. Broadcasting council meetings, moved by Councillor Lifeso, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that the Council of Municipality of Brockton hereby receives report CLK 2021-25 broadcasting council meetings implementation prepared by Fiona Hamlin, Clerk, and Sarah Johnson, Junior Deputy Clerk, and doing so approves option blank. Okay, discussion on those different options. Councillor Hutchin.
Option 2, I just wonder approximately what do you think it's going to cost to upgrade what we need to have the meetings held in Cargill?
I think we can be potentially flexible through you, Mayor Peabody. So, you know, I would think that the biggest thing that would be an investment would be getting furniture that can be easily moved and stored and accommodate council meetings. And I think you'd want that furniture to be, you know, multi-purpose, so that it wouldn't just be used for council meetings, but could be used for other committee meetings, other, you know, community groups that wanted to have meetings there, rolled in and out. And I think that's probably what the largest expense would be in order to outfit Cargill. So we have priced some of those tables, but we weren't really satisfied with kind of what their functionality. But I think what you could do is you could do certain phases, right? You could say, you know, we're going to maybe invest in a couple of tables now, and then bring forward proposals for the budget for the 2022 budget, because I would expect that for the remainder of this year, regardless of where we're meeting, we may not necessarily be meeting as a full complement, perhaps. We may still want to keep something staggered, or we may want to slowly work our way back up to having full in-person meetings, just to kind of be respectful of COVID rules, but also respectful of a significant change for people as well. So I think, you know, we can continue to develop it over other years. I would imagine we'd also probably want to get one of the big logos for the wall as well. So, you know, we could add on to that as years go by. So we wouldn't necessarily need to do everything at one time. But if we did, I think probably the biggest expense would be the furniture. And I think, you know, we could probably look at about an initial investment of $10,000 from that perspective or less. You know, we do have some of the funds coming from, you know, we're kind of in a more advantageous position than we were before, because now we know that we have funds covered from the grant for this program as well. And so the funds that we had earmarked in the budget, you know, the proposal was to allocate those for next year. But at least we do know that we've got some funds that were earmarked to try to improve the transparency of our council meetings.
Okay, further question.
I just wanted to add that selfishly, I'd love to continue Zoom during the winter.
Well, we'll certainly find a way to do a hybrid thing. So I was thinking about that, Kim. That one meeting we had was November 7th, and I have to make the call if they're canceled. And I went ahead and had it, and it was one of the worst drives home I know you guys had. And there was a fatality out at the Formosa corner that night. So I think it was a double fatality. So yeah, something really to ponder about the winter driving. So we need the hybrid. Okay, Councillor Adams. Oh,
Councillor
you're on
Adams,
mute.
you're on mute.
First time tonight. Anyways, I support option one, the County of Bruce Council Chambers, and I think some of the key pieces, new audio equipment being installed. I think we had some challenges there. I was one of the few we had additional televisions, and I like this, and I totally agree with the comment that the Bruce County Chambers is a professional facility with a large enough size to accommodate large public meetings. I think it is the place that we should be. And so I support option one fairly strongly.
Okay, further comments? Councillor Leifsfield and Councillor Alphick.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Adams. I support option one. Even if, I mean, quite frankly, the committee meetings are not going to be at either the Cargill Community Center or the Bruce County Council Chambers. They haven't been in the past, and I don't think they will be in the future either. So, I mean, we do have the meeting room at our current offices, and for some committees it could be larger, but then again, we expect some of the committees to be smaller in the future. But I certainly agree with the comments that I think it's a more professional setting. I like having the council meetings once a year in Elmwood and Cargill. I think it's a good idea, but at the same time, it's not a professional setting. And I go back to my old days when I was actually doing criminal law, and we were meeting in the Legion in Hanover and the Golf Club in Markdale. They worked, but they simply didn't have the same professional atmosphere, decorum that you have in a courthouse. And I sort of feel the same way about this. This is important business for the community. I know appearances aren't everything, but perception certainly affects reality. And I think it's just a better, it's just better being in that sort of professional atmosphere, and for a room that's designed for that purpose, as opposed to a multi-purpose room.
Okay, Councillor Alphick.
I'll just build on Councillor Adams and Councillor Life. So I'm in support of option one as well. I also just feel that Bruce County Chambers are accessible, not only for physical limitations, but also for those that are deaf and may require the hearing assistance with the amplification and also the additional screens for reading and displays, where the Cargill facility does not have that capability, and that would be a significant investment that I don't believe we're prepared to make for that. So I'm in support of option one.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, we have a number for option one, so I'll put that on the, I know it's not a total consensus, but I'll put option one down for the Bruce County Council Chambers.
I'll just add that I'm in full support though of a hybrid, and that we should ensure that if we are using the county council chambers, that it does permit that, and I think it does.
Yes. Okay, Deputy McGearsack. You're on mute. You're on mute.
My cursor wasn't working, but thank you, Mayor Peabody, and I would just like to support Dean Lifestyle in his recognition of our council meetings at Cargill and Elmwood. Perceptions are very important, and I'd really like to continue those. With respect to the Bruce County building, there have been complaints in the past about the audio system there, and I suspect that many of the people who used to attend some of those meetings have gotten in the habit of seeing these council meetings online. and they will perhaps continue to do that to save on travel and other things. So the hybrid model is certainly important, but I would also hope that we continue to have meetings in Cargill and Elmwood.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Through you, Mayor Peabody, I'm quite happy to continue to organize a meeting in Cargill and Elmwood. I just want to be very clear that we will not be able to broadcast those if we do them as fully in person.
Do them on Zoom still, or do we have to renew the Zoom license, I guess?
Well, we wouldn't, the problem with doing it on Zoom is if I were going to broadcast it via Zoom and I had everybody in the same room, the best I can do is kind of set up a camera to the laptop and have one big main view of everybody. So that's the challenge, is that, you know, which I have done before in the past at certain meetings. You know, I've done that at the Walkerton Community Center, is just sort of use the laptop camera to capture the whole meeting. But, you know, I think for viewers, that's not the same experience that they're used to, of being able to see each council member's particular contributions with as much, you know, nuance as they are now. When they see just one big kind of meeting, it's a little bit harder to sort of hear as clearly what people are saying. So that's my only, the only information I wanted to make sure that council was very much aware of, is that those meetings would still remain then very traditional format. They'd be open to the public because we'd be in the reopening phase, and I wouldn't really be able to broadcast those quite as easily.
Just a question on that. Couldn't we use our laptop computers the way we do now? We're all accessing the internet, and maybe there's, you know, not enough bandwidth out of the Cargill facility to have 7 or 8 computers on Zoom.
I think it's more a matter of feedback, actually, that when you're all trying to be Zooming in together on your laptop, you start to get feedback issues and delays with people, and then you hear echoes because, you know, it's not just your microphone picking up, it's picking it up on the ones next to it. So although we've tried that too, that tended not to work very well as well. It sort of interrupted Zoom. And there may be some bandwidth problems as well. Even in the municipal office, sometimes when we've got multiple staff members trying to have the same Zoom here, you know, you'll get more internet unstable warnings and those kinds of things. So we can certainly try, but I think we may find it to be a technical challenge.
Okay, well, I think, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, good enough.
I think, Dan, we can work that out later. We can figure it out later. We'll vote on option one. Well, option one is up for a vote, but I think your point is important, that if we go back to the county building, how do we work it out that we go back to Cargill to have that? We can figure it out. I think we need to figure it out. You're right, Dan. Okay. All right. So we've got option one filled in. Call the question. All those in favor? Okay, that motion is carried. Okay, municipal solicitors, moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that the Council's Flagpole hereby approves report number CAO 2021-13, change to municipal solicitors, prepared by Sonia Watson, CAO, and Fiona Hamilton, clerk, and provides further direction to staff. Okay. Councillor Adams. Oh, you're on mute. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that, whatever, everyone. First off, I'm going to say I've been very impressed with the work that our municipal solicitor has done. I think Tammy's done an outstanding job for us. What I see is very thorough, very detailed, and very understandable. And sometimes that's hard to do, I think, when you're a legal mind. And so I think she's done an outstanding job for us. And I also recognize the large benefit, the huge benefit of continuity with all the files, all the work that she's done for us over the course of time. I also know that being part of finance, and Mayor, you're on finance as well, and over the last 5 or 6 years, Dan was before, we'd often talked about ensuring that our exempt service providers, that we know that we're getting good value. And it's been difficult to challenge that. Dan, I think you remember, we've talked about that many times in the previous council term. So I have no problem if we wanted to request perspectives to see, to ensure that we're getting the value that we expect we are. Again, with the proviso that I think you'd want to make sure that there was a statement that lowest cost obviously may not win the bid, because I think that that's part of the exempt piece of the service that is provided to us, that we're getting the value back for our residents that we expect. And that may not have anything to do with the lowest cost. So my feeling is I think we're being very well served right now. And I wouldn't have a problem just asking for perspectives to understand what costs are out there, so that council can make an informed decision.
Okay, is there a response to that? Okay, Councillor Elphick.
I'll just add that I support what Councillor Adams is suggesting. I think that that Tammy has done some exceptional work for the municipality, and I think that that's been enjoyed by the firm and the firm that Tammy's been part of for a period of time. I balance that though with when naturally the municipality comes to a point of reassessing the firm that we have retained, and when that should go to market, so to speak, and allow for other interested parties to have an opportunity at that work that we have in the municipality. Because I know that it's been a considerable period of time that that firm has been performing municipal solicitor work. So I'll say that, but I think that council does have to say and make a decision firmly if we're going to exempt those services, that's the firm we're going to use, and we need to find a way that's going to ensure that it's a great value for money and great value for our ratepayers. So if it means that we go with the route of getting some perspectives, it would be helpful in ensuring that we're on the right track.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Deputy Mayor Gierzak.
Yes, I would support that direction as well. With the new firm, I guess it's difficult for us to know whether or not costs are going to change. You might assume that when firms merge, there's increased costs or there's an anticipation of an increase in profit somewhere. So for us to go to market, get that sober second thought evaluation, and then make an informed decision, I think is a wise suggestion from Councillor Adams.
Okay. All right, so we seem to have a direction. So what do I fill in then? Councillor Adams, what did you want me to put on the sheet? You're on mute again.
No, I realized that. I just fumbled for the spot there. We have not done this before, and Mayor Peabody, we'd also talked about engineering and looking at those sort of things. So I'm not sure what the protocol is in terms of asking for a perspective from legal firms or engineering firms. Maybe staff can help with a bit of direction on that. I don't know how you would bring together some kind of perspective, because there are different services that they provide to us, and there may be different pricing for that. I don't know if there's a protocol within the legal business that gives you 10 different scenario pricing. I don't know that. Fiona's got her hand up, and I was kind of hoping she might.
Okay, Fiona will answer it.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Peabody. I think that I've seen municipalities, kind of put out some calls for proposals for legal retainers in the past and been a part of that process in the past. And I think, often what happens is, there's a set of considerations that I think are helpful to think about that we've already sort of highlighted in terms of, continuity of files and, would you be paying for travel time? What kinds of disbursements would you be paying for? How they bill those disbursements, who's at the firm, how many, years of experience and what the hourly rate is. And those are sort of the same kinds of questions that you'd be asking. But I think, when you're getting legal advice, you do want to have that element of trust, and you need to have an element of comfort, and there is an emotional component to it as well. where you have to ensure you're getting good value for your ratepayers. But to be honest, I largely have no concerns that that's occurring. But you do want to make sure you're getting solid advice and that you have trust in that council, that you can be forthcoming with them and have a solid, good relationship. So there is a component that I think, you can be comparing some objective criteria, but there is a component as well where I think you've got to feel, do we feel comfortable with this person with some of our most fundamental questions as a council? And that's where I think there's usually been a request that people put in a proposal where they describe themselves and what their firm is like. And then maybe you also have an interview as well with some members of council. And that's the procedure I've been involved in. I bet Dean's probably been involved in a few in his day. But I think we could certainly do something like that and invite, some firms that we know have, some municipal law experience behind them, including, Ms. Grove McClement as well. That's probably what I would picture if we were going to want to do an exploration. That's probably what I would picture happening. But, it's up to council. You could say, okay, there's, only a couple firms we're interested in, or, maybe we just want to, call around and compare our hourly rates. But I think that's a very short-sighted way of looking at the services that we're receiving. Because of course, there's some fees that might be hourly. There's some fees that, maybe staff are doing that you may not be getting paid. You may not be paying that hourly rate for. And there's some things that are block feed. So I think there's a lot of considerations that would need to be evaluated. And that's where I'd suggest maybe having firms submit proposals so that you could explore all of those various criteria.
Okay.
Thank you,
Kim and Dan.
Thank you. I support staying with Grove McClement just because of the history and the knowledge.
Dan, you drained it.
Thank you. Yeah, based on Fiona's feedback, I wonder if the direction we can give staff is to come back with a more detailed report with respect to options, rather than make a decision on a specific path at this time. It sounds like there's a lot of options to consider.
Well, I through you, Mayor Peabody, the only thing I would caution is that the partnership is itself dissolving as of the 16th of July. So I think, there is some need to kind of determine something fairly soon, because that entity that's been named in our appointment bylaw is not going to exist anymore. And I think they're sort of within that looking for some direction on where files are going and what's happening. I think the direction I was kind of looking for is either, are we interested in exploring any other avenues at all? And if we are, then I think the most fair way to do that is to decide that we're going to look at some proposals from various firms to compare. And what we could do is bring forward a report that outlines what that, request for proposal process is going to look like, because this is a little bit different. But that was really only if council's even interested in exploring other options. If the direction was we're just going to maintain the status quo, then, we wouldn't really have to go there either.
Okay, Tim.
And just maybe an aspect to clarify. So the partnership of Grove McClement and Fisher is dissolving, and our direction is to continue engaging Tammy Grove McClement. But from the report, is Tammy Grove McClement an entity that we're going to be able to enter into a retainer agreement with, or is it going to be the Ross firm who Tammy is merging with, according to the letter? And are we actually entering into a retainer with the Ross firm, which doesn't provide us the same competitive advantages that we've talked about, or are we actually going to be engaging Tammy singularly and getting to leverage Tammy's expertise and experience from a historical perspective of the municipality?
To be honest, it's actually not just that it's the Ross firm plus Tammy are their own partnership together. So it's not, they're going to be an entirely separate entity. So it's not just the Ross firm that Tammy's kind of, going to work there. They're going to start a new partnership, which is why you'll see on the bottom of her letterhead or the sign, there's a Grove McClement plus the Ross firm. She's going to keep the same office. She's going to keep the same files. She's going to keep most of the same staff. The only difference is her practice area will focus entirely on municipal law instead. So I think the idea would be she would be the main point person if there was a municipal law question that came up. But we do from time to time retain other solicitors for other things that do happen. If we're looking for someone who has a particular expertise in this area, or perhaps Tammy's been conflicted out, which does happen, then we're looking to other counsel. And so, maybe there's an opportunity if she does have a larger firm that she's in a partnership with to say, okay, well, do you have someone in that firm that has some expertise in this very strange issue that we've got that you haven't dealt with before? So, there's lots of opportunity there.
And I'll just maybe say that's, I think, where we maybe get into a problematic area, because it's kind of like bringing another firm in without having gone through any sort of procurement or tendering process for that service. But I understood that we were engaging with Tammy, and that the direction that we were proceeding forward with was to continue retaining Tammy, but I might be hearing something different now. So I certainly support continuing to retain Tammy, but it sounds like there might be now other parties getting involved.
Okay, Dean, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was just interested in the gossip. Tammy didn't say in her letter she's only doing exclusively municipal law.
That's what in our conversation she is going to. That's what her focus is going to be. Is she is going to do just municipal law, and she won't be doing other areas of practice. That's just going to be.
She would still be doing real estate law for the municipality.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So her only clients would be municipalities.
Would be municipalities ultimately. Yes, that's right.
Well, I was just asking from your gossip point of view. I'm trying to decide whether she's a conflict of interest or not, because quite frankly, we do some municipal law for Hanover, but I really don't think we want to do municipal law as a big thing. It never hurts to go to RFPs. They're a major, if nothing else, it's just interesting to get some idea of what's out there and what they would actually be offering. Bearing in mind that there are some things that simply aren't going to be covered by an RFP. Historically, what I understand is the bylaw enforcement prosecutions, they've gone out for tender a couple times during our council experience. I noticed that from the police service.
Yeah.
And they're more or less just based on the responses were always an hourly rate based on who was doing it.
That's right. I know that has occurred in the past. And I think, that would be one component that maybe we would want to canvass in the proposal, is how they could assist us in handling bylaw prosecutions. And in addition, how they would help us handle building code violations if those occurred as well. Because again, that is also a separate act with very separate regime, and sometimes even separate instructions being provided to maintain that independent role of the municipality CBO that we're legislated to have. So I think there would be a couple of components in that RFP, but that's where I think it would be an RFP, because every firm is a little bit different. Every lawyer is a little bit different, and they approach things from a different way. And so I think that's where you'd see what was there and decide what best suits us, and be able to move forward. That's certainly one option, but the other option is, as I say, there would be, to confirm to Councillor Elphick's question, Tammy is going to be linked with another firm. They are forming their own partnership, but she would be the main contact person because she will be the one doing all municipal law. We would maintain her direct contact.
Okay, Sonia.
Just to add to the discussion, personally, since my time in Brockton, I have had really a fantastic relationship with Tammy, and being able to call on her and her knowledge and advice on Brockton's matters. it is there, and that saves a lot of staff time, which is a huge value in itself, rather than putting together a whole gamut of information to provide to the solicitor. So, I think there's huge value in that, but at the same time, if she is moving to a new firm and we are wanting to verify pricing, which again, I do think what we are currently paying is very fair and comparable. The only way for us to do that is to go to a request for proposal, if that's the way council's, leaning towards.
Okay. All right. So lots of discussion all over the map here on this one. So we need to give a direction here. From what I've heard, a majority want to, if not an RFP, you do want to shop things around a bit, do some comparing to make sure we're getting good value, especially since it is a new firm, really, essentially, that we're going with, as Tim pointed out. So I don't know what to fill in.
Do we know if the costing is the same with the new firm, or will it have changed?
I have not received any indication that Tammy's rates would be increasing. So at least for now, I think her rates would remain the same. But what we don't know is that because of the new firm, there'll be another associate who's able to handle provincial offenses matters, as well as a paralegal as well, who could do some prosecution work. And I don't know what their hourly rates would be, which is relevant because we do have a matter that's being scheduled for trial. And I think it would make sense to, even if we do get proposals, to keep, any matters that have started with this lawyer, to sort of keep that continuity. But we have had no indication that she has, planning on increasing her rates. And there may be an opportunity because of the paralegal and another prosecutor to get some work done even at lower rates as well with her supervision.
Just wondering if it's possible to carry her forward for 3 months, give staff a chance to throw something together in terms of a perspective, so we can get. I get the sense that council's pretty satisfied with what Tammy's been doing, and I think the other flip side of that is council also wants to make sure that we are doing the best we can for the residents. But this is a specialized service. This isn't like buying a condenser for the air conditioning system at the community center. This is a whole lot different, and we all recognize that. How do we balance those two needs? Sorry, Sonia.
No, through you, Mayor Peabody, you're thinking along the lines of what I was going to suggest also, Councillor Adams. If council is struggling with this decision, maybe we engage, I would say we need a solid 6 months to a year, and we diarize that and we evaluate our costs in comparison, and at that time bring forward another report, and council decides at that time if we want to go to a request for proposals. And we also can evaluate with the new firm if we're getting same or similar service or added value with the added expertise that's there.
Okay, I like that idea. Meets all the concerns. So I'll fill in that the direction to staff is to engage Tammy Grove McClement for a 6-month period, followed by an evaluation by staff. That's okay. All right, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, item 9.8, public notification. The Green Act landfill is now open as of Saturday, July 10th. Temporary road closure, July 16th, 9 to 3. Durham Street between Victoria and Jackson will be closed. A detour is available along Scott Street from Jackson to McNabb Street. Temporary bridge closure. The S. Weiss Memorial Bridge remains closed until late August. Service disruptions, temporary road closures for reconstruction. The following roads are temporarily closed for reconstruction: Chepstow Road 6, George Street, Walkerton, Queen Street, Elmwood, Bruce Road 3, Bruce Road 4. More information is available on our website, brockton.ca. Service disruptions, accounts. Moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elphick. That the council supply Brockton approve payment of the accounts in the amount of $1,169,738.78. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Information items moved by Councillor Elphick, seconded by Councillor Leif, so that the municipality of Brockton receives all items provided in Section 11 information. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Our bylaws. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gierczak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin. The Council Municipality of Brockton authorized the following bylaws to be read, enacted, numbered, signed, sealed as follows. Bylaw 96, amend the consolidated traffic and parking bylaw. 97, amend the 2021 borrowing from capital expenditures bylaw. 98, Ryan Fullerton site plan agreement bylaw. 99, rural economic development program agreement, municipal services bylaw. 100, amend appointment of board of management for Walkerton BIA. All those in favor? Carried. Our committee minutes, moved by Councillor Adams, second by Councillor Elphick, that the following committees and their boards is presented. Walkerton BIA, January 25th, February 22nd, March 1st, March 15th, April 6th, May 3rd, June 2nd, and the Elmwood Community Center Board minutes, May 4th. All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Now we are on to the new business brought forward and any items that council has to mention tonight. Councillor Adams.
Just one thing. Mayor Peabody, you're joined at the hip with me in this one. We've had some fairly significant delays in the planning process through the county, and I think it's due to staffing, and there's legitimate reasons for that. But some of our residents are being affected. One in particular has engaged the mayor and myself, and goes all the way back to about March. Wants to put a new house up, pretty nice place, and still hasn't really gotten very far in the whole process. We're now going to be into the fall or into the winter time. I think there are more. I think Mayor Peabody, you inquired. I think they're well behind. So I think this certainly affects our residents. So I know council would want to engage on it. And I'm not sure what the standards are, but I do know in this particular situation, it's been a long, long time. And the resident is getting pretty frustrated, as you would imagine. And I'm just wondering what the service standard is, and if we're not meeting it, which is probably likely, when we're going to get back to that. I don't think we want to sit in the sidelines. I think we want to be an active participant with our residents that are being delayed from a planning perspective. I would probably propose that we write some letter of concern through staff to on behalf of council to the county planning to see when they will, if they're not meeting a standard, what that standard is and when they'll meet it. But I think it's becoming a bit serious, and we need to represent our residents in that regard. Mayor Peabody, anything to add?
Yes, I have received those complaints from you and person you're working with, as well as quite a few every week for this year. Since construction season started, I've been getting inquiries, and they have hired a new person up in the Wyerton office, but then there are people off on sick leaves. But at the same time, I agree with you. We do need to, our residents do need a minimum service standard for, you file as your person did, you file in March, you want to build a house, when can people expect responses? So I agree we should, council's okay with that, send some sort of diplomatic letter saying that we are experiencing this in Brockton here, and collectively what can we do to address those to ensure all our residents get timely responses on planning, because it's just very, you can hear the frustration in people's voices, and they want to get going with things and move on with their lives or build whatever. And it's difficult hearing that frustration from residents who want to invest money in Brockton. So I think that's a Good idea, Councillor Adams. Okay, Councillor Hutchin.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention the fundraisers for the hospice build in South Grey Bruce, how impressed I am with them. And I want to say thank you to them. They've raised over $134,000 so far.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.
Okay, on the county, a county update I can give you is the there's a traffic master plan passed. Few interesting things for Brockton in that is that our main street here was listed as a very busy street that deserves attention in terms of the amount of traffic and how to handle that all the way up to the TSC corner, as well as a few traffic hot spots were identified, like the Mildmay corner. It's on Highway 9, that's in Brockton. So there's a few areas of concern noted. The key point, though, I know everybody will be interested in, was the county. It was listed as getting involved and perhaps putting money in. It was in the plan, but not approved the money, but getting involved in things like Saugeen Mobility or funding a transit line from Hanover to Walkerton. I continue to express my, the study didn't pick a side, but I continue to think we should really get the county involved in SMART and put some money in that. So $1 million was earmarked for that. I think if we can, all of us can help steer that towards SMART, I think that'd be a great idea, and to boost that existing service. So that's where the county is. Interesting report. Okay. Any other points before we go in camera? Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that we go into camera at 9:54 to address personnel matters, staffing update, and local board staffing update, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on by half the municipality or local board, East Ridge Business Park property, subdivision update. Okay, and a subdivision update, two separates. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that's carried. All right, so we'll leave this meeting to go in camera.
I think I need a better setup with 3 computer screens and just switching back and forth here.
Dean, you mean you need another computer so that you can land billionaires safely back to the earth? You're on mute.
Yeah, I think I need a bigger desk. 4 screens. Did anybody get a lot of rain or thunderstorms tonight?
A little bit of rain, a little bit of thunder.
Oh, I didn't get any. My internet went out obviously for a while during the meeting.
I thought it was pouring right now, but it's not. But about 5:30, we had a lot.
Yeah, we haven't had a couple of drops and that's about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think we've had a little bit overnight for the last 3, 4, 5 days.
Got really dark early, but just as well, I don't need hail. If it ever stops raining, I have a week to take off, but well. If we can ever get to Young's, because all the roads are closed.
I've had people come from Chesley and they hit the Cargill Bridge and have to turn around. And then they go down, had to go all the way to Walkerton to come up Chepstow Road to hit the closed bridge in Chepstow. And they had to back up, go south and around.
Yeah,
they're not happy.
No.
The good news
we should have paved the bridge from, or the 10th from the County Road 19 to County Road 3 a long time ago.
Just a matter of tax dollars.
Have we lost the mayor?
The 10th gets flooded out a lot, doesn't it, Dean?
It used to when they put yeah, before the new bridge, it was flooded out a lot. Then when they put the new bridge in, it did still flood out a little bit, but I think they built it up now to the point where it doesn't too much.
Yeah, as I recall, there was discussion about putting some underpasses through further west to allow the water to go underneath that road rather than over top.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And those underpasses never got built, so when it does flood, it still washes out a fair bit of that gravel.
Is that why there's so many large rocks around there?
I believe so.
I never go that way. It's gravel, not paved. So
I do. It's
I'm
efficient.
going to have to from now on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have a quorum here. We'll wait for Fiona to get back to monitor things.
I'm back. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll return to open session. Moved by Councillor Elphick, seconded by Councillor Leif, so that we approve the direction provided to staff in closed session, and doing so acknowledges the promotion of Tammy Keyswater as the full-time program administrative coordinator for the Brockton Child Care Center, and further accepts with regret the retirement of Don Clark from the position of custodial maintenance worker, and further accepts with regret the resignation of Katie Merchant from the tax accountable. All those in favor? That is carried. Confirmation of proceedings, moved by Councillor Leifso, seconded by Councillor Elphick, that we authorize the following bylaw to be read, acted, signed, sealed, numbered as followed. Bylaw 99, July 13th, confirmatory bylaw. All those in favor? Carried. And a motion to adjourn at 10:54, moved by Deputy Mayor Gierzak, seconded by Councillor Hutchin, that we meet again August 10th. All those in favor? Very much, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.